Hey everybody, welcome to Movies Worth Talking About, where we talk and talk and talk and fucking talk about movies. I am John Carlos. I am joined by good old
Brennan Jason,
yeah,
BJ, yep.
the Beej.
The Beach.
Yeah. And one of the things that has bonded us over the years, there's a lot of things, but one of them is old Tom Cruise.
Oh, yes, Mr. I'm a
Yeah.
fan. Yeah,
Yeah,
all about
he,
that Tom
he
Cruise.
he may belong to a really, really wacky cult, but god damn does he produce some fucking movies.
He knows how to make movies, man. He knows how to make
He
movies. And it's what's funny about it is it's not even if it's a bad movie, if he's in it, and there's not many in my opinion, but if it's a bad movie, it doesn't matter. Tom Cruise still like is giving it everything
Oh
he's
yeah,
got.
yeah. I'll give you an example, and I don't even think this is a bad movie. It's just not top tier. But like, I saw Night and Day.
Hmm.
It's not many people's favorite,
Hmm.
but he's great in it, and it's a great production. And
It's
every
it's
time they get into shenanigans, and then they wake up, and he's like hanging upside down, and he's like, "Don't worry, like I got this under control." Like he's still great, you know.
yeah,
And
no, well, it's
and
funny
that
is
movie still
my
slaps.
well, it's funny. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
It
My
just doesn't
mom,
slap as hard as like Mission Impossible or Edge of Tomorrow, but
well, no, no,
it's
no, 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 no. It's a Hot Shots version of Mission Impossible, which totally works for me. I think it's fun. It's one of my mom's favorite movies. My mom is always
yeah.
like, "Oh, have you ever seen Night and Day?" And I'm like, she always brings up Night and Day in every conversation.
This is the guy. I'm the guy.
Oh my God.
This is the guy.
So my dog is named Maverick for Tom Cruise, and whenever we're like, when you're talking to your dog, that's what I say to him. I go, "Is this the guy? Are you the guy? Is this the guy? Am I the guy? Are you the guy?" Yeah. So if you've never seen Night and Day, that makes no sense, but it's a great sequence. I'm the guy. You're the guy.
Yeah.
It's so good.
See
Yeah. So
now
I,
the later, like, I know we're all very aware of Tom Cruise's hand as a producer in the later Mission Impossible movies, but I always forget that like Mission Impossible 1 is still like a Tom Cruise. Was it Wagner? Was it Deborah Wagner? He had a
Wagner, yeah,
partner.
Deborah Wagner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even from the get-go, like yeah, this movie isn't as nuts as some of the later ones, but it was still like a thing in 1996, and they're like, when the fucking fish tanks fall, that's really Tom Cruise fucking running from the restaurant. Like
Well, yeah,
he was
that was
still producing his own stunty shit back then.
well, it's funny because this was kind of I mean, he was doing stuff previous to this, but the first one was really the beginning of Tom Cruise becoming that guy where he's doing crazy stunts, and it's almost like Jackie Chan-ish at that point, but it started to become that. But that was kind of the beginning of it. Like I remember watching the behind the scenes where he ran into the fish tank exploding
Mm-hmm.
around him and him really running out and him shooting it in slow-mo. And we got one shot, we're blowing up the restaurant.
Yeah,
And yeah, so this was kind of the beginning of that. And while
yeah.
the stunts get crazier, these ones seem a little more obviously a little more realistic and down to earth. And but they're all
Yeah.
fantastic. And this was kind of the beginning of that. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought the beginning because it feels like certain filmmakers and certain actors they'll have like phases in their careers, and this really does feel like the turning point. That everything prior to this was like, I mean, there was variety, but like he was very much Tom Cruise, who was in like cocktail,
Right.
touchstone movies, dramas, like the color of money,
Color of Money,
and
Top
maybe
Gun. Yeah.
some things that were a little more interesting, like like Interview with the Vampire. But
Rain
like when you
Man.
look at Rain Man, like
Yeah.
he wasn't really he was in Top Gun, but he wasn't really an action star.
Yeah, no, I mean he dabbled, and in Top Gun he was kind of an action star, but it's
But
not like
this
him
is,
jumping out of this
and you
is
can trace the next part of his career kind of starts here. The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
blockbuster action guy.
Yeah, like that definitely was not Tom Cruise previous to the Mission Impossible series. Even
Mm-mm.
after the first movie. The first movie people were like, "Oh, well that was great." And then he would do, Vanilla Sky or something like that, and you'd be like, "Oh, wow, he's a real,
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and now he is so known as being an action star that this was the beginning of that phase. But it's interesting because now I haven't thought about it, but this was not what he was when this came out.
No,
Mm-mm.
not at all. And I
Yeah, and then
think
he did produce this one though. He was really hands-on in this one. I know I heard stories. hopefully they're factual stories that when he was producing this, he was really gung-ho about it. He loved the Mission Impossible TV show. Um, went after what's his name from Airplane. Oh, I was just talking about him today to come back and play Mr. Phelps, and
Oh,
he
John
turned it
Boyd.
down.
Oh, the original
Not
guy.
John.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
Yeah,
who you're
yeah.
talking about.
He had pushed for Graves, right? George Graves. Is that his name? George Graves. I think
Do you
that's
know
his
how
name.
much I know about the Mission Possible show?
Nothing.
Yeah, I know the fucking theme song and that Jim Phelps was a character.
Really? Okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
pull this up because Peter Graves, right? Peter Graves. I think that's his name. Yes, Peter Graves. Okay, so being someone that was a fan of the TV show, John Carlos,
Yeah.
Peter Graves, who you know as the creepy pilot in Airplane and
Airplane,
Airplane
yeah.
2. And there's a Mission Impossible joke, and I just happened to watch Airplane 2 this weekend. Don't ask me why. And I watched Airplane 2, and there's totally a Mission Impossible sequence where the theme song plays and he's like stuck in the plane and there's like gas shooting him in the face. It's pretty funny. And which also brings me to this trivia about it, that Tom Cruise really wanted Peter Graves to come play Mr. Phelps, and that he wanted it to be it is a direct continuation of the show. It's not a remake. It's a
Yeah.
sequel to
I
the
always
TV
wondered
show.
with having the character Jim
Hmm.
Phelps, is it supposed to be?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wanted Peter Graves to come back, and I guess what I read was that Peter Graves refused to sully the character of Jim Phelps by allowing him to become the villain. And spoilers, but I think that was a massive mistake. I think Peter Graves, because like the movie's great and John Voight destroys. I don't even like John Voight as a person, but like you said, dude
Same.
can act.
Yeah. No, there's a reason he
um
has a career.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's just not a good person. But if Peter Graves, because we'll talk about Mission Impossible, but I do think that the level that Mission Impossible is at, which I don't want to say directly yet, but the level that the first Mission Impossible movie is at, it would have been heightened even just that extra tiny percent for people like me who, had that conversation. Is this actually part of the TV show? Is this like a
Yeah.
remake of the show? Is a reimagining? And Tom Cruise is like, this is a continuation. It's a sequel.
That would
These
have,
movies are,
I agree with you. Like that little connective tissue really would have made it just a
yeah,
little over the edge.
I was hoping when this series started, when this movie came out, that they would do sequels and have more of the original characters pop in and pop out, and maybe even bring in, like Leonard Nimoy was a character on the show
Yeah.
before, and I
I
thought
did
Nimoy
know
would be a,
that.
and I thought that Nimoy would have been a great villain, also, or even somebody that just showed up. But yeah, that's a little trivia to start it out. But that's
Yeah.
Peter, the John Voight character, Jim Phelps, was going to be played by Peter Graves, and I guess they were in deep negotiation because Tom really wanted it, and then which
I mean,
we'll get into the plot,
I
but
I
I
mean
think was a
I
bad
get
call.
his point of view because I remember seeing okay, a few years after this came out, maybe like in 2000 or so. I was working at Suncoast, and I think I was stalking Mission Impossible. I'm like, man, I fucking love this movie. And a guy who was like a little bit older than me, like a good maybe 15, 20 years, was like, no, I don't like that movie. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I don't like what they did to Jim Phelps. Jim Phelps is the bad guy. Fuck that movie. I go, oh, sorry, I didn't watch the show. He's like, yeah, I could tell. He's like, that's a horrible thing. I don't like that. And I go,
Well, it's
I don't give a
yeah,
fuck.
yeah. I
Also,
can see. Yeah,
I don't mind that Luke Skywalker grew up to be grumpy. Like, I'm fine with our heroes kind of going something. Like, it's fine.
yeah. Ripley didn't survive. Like
Yeah,
I dig it. I don't think all is lost because the character took
yeah.
a non-happy, I would say non-happy role. Like you said, Luke Skywalker. I'm actually a fan of The Last Jedi. I like the
Fucking
sequels.
love it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Last Jedi. So I dig, and I like characters progressing as long as they progress naturally. And I think and we'll talk about it, but there's scenes in this movie where they explain to you why things and characters
Oh,
go the way they do in this, and they do it in a really interesting way. And I think that it's very organic. I think the character did, and I hate to bring up modern times because they suck, but as of today, we have two former high up military officials, award decorated, who just, you know, perform terrorist attacks. And so it's one of those things, the idea of being in this type of career for your entire life and what it demands of you and what your motivations are. And then you end up making, you know, what they say Kittredge is making at the time of this film. And one of the motives is that, he still has a crappy 65 grand a
Yeah.
year. And I was like this going, oh, like there's a lot of moments that when I rewatched it today, stuff that's going on right now, that I think it's wildly relevant. And I think that is a natural progression for a character who is Cold War. It's like
Yeah.
James Bond in kind of like the Timothy Dalton early Pierce Brosnan Bond movies where they definitely were talking about like the Cold War is over and these Cold War people and politicians and government officials and agents have no idea how to not live for the
Yeah.
secrets. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
He Phelps never has his own monologue, but the way Kittredge spitballs, I 100% go, yeah, that's probably it. And I
Mhm.
totally buy it, even not without having seen the show. If I had, I would still go, well, it's been a few decades, and we are kind of making a statement of where espionage is or could be now versus then. And
Yep.
yeah, and not just the fact that the Cold War's over and what do I do, but the fact that, like they say, he doesn't have the ear of the president anymore. Like these people are over fucking here,
Yeah. Well,
and there's now fucking bureaucrats and probably all sorts of donors and shit that all are the one really making the pushing for the decisions and agenda, and not the fucking heads of these secret ops and blah 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 and
yeah. Well, it was interesting because
Russia this and Cold War that. But
yeah. And I remembered, and while like I said, I've seen this movie probably more times than I've written my own name. I forgot what the when they're on C-SPAN or whatever it is, and they're having the argument where Tom is getting I'm going to try not to get too into it because I know we're going to go through the movie, but Tom's kind of deal with the progressive senator or whatever it is going, I need to know where these people are making money. This country was a democracy the last time I checked it. Da, 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 da. And then Tom dresses up as that character and has the rubber
mm,
mask and everything to break into to try to get the knock list. What he's talking about is exactly all of it. And it's like the script is really well thought out because everything matters and everything is clear. If you don't pay attention, that's your fault, but everything is clearly, the gun on the wall, thing happens throughout it.
oh yeah,
The rubber mask, the disguises, the gum, the glasses, the like everything is set up start to finish and it's yeah.
it's so we're talking about the script a bit because that's one of the things that really, I mean, it hit me then, and then enough time passed where I just watched it and, oh yeah, because I always remember that Robert Towne wrote the second Mission Impossible, but I forget that he wrote the first. Him and
Well,
David Koepp. I don't know if they wrote it together or if David Koepp gets
now
credit for an earlier
David
script.
Koepp David Koepp, while he's done huge things, is wildly underrated. Like I
I
still
fucking
think
love David Koepp.
he does not get the props that he deserves. And whenever somebody like brings up something that he did that wasn't like universally loved, they try to make it sound like,
The Lost World. Bleh.
oh yeah, and
Bitch, go see Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes, bro. Didn't he work on Star Trek Six: The Undiscovered Country?
Oh, there you go.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, David Koepp, I think he also worked on Last Crusade, didn't he? Last
Did
Crusade,
he?
and I thought he worked on Last Crusade and then sadly Crystal Skull, but I forgive him.
But also
I don't
Secret
blame him for
Window.
that. Oh,
Shut up. I like Secret Window. I,
mm.
yeah. Nothing's changed. I remember opening weekend. That's what you sounded like. And yeah.
Well, I went and saw it. I was there opening night, and the
It's not
multiple
amazing,
personality,
but I like it.
the multiple personality thing had been killed by that point. So I was like,
But Stir
who
of
cares?
Echoes to me is
Stir of Echoes.
fucking
Okay,
all time.
let me see. What's
Underrated
some of
little
these?
movie.
Yeah, I think Stir of Echoes is fantastic. It's a Kevin Bacon movie, and 9 times out of 10, 9 times, I would say more like 7 times out of 10, Kevin Bacon movies are. Oh, so he wrote Jurassic Park,
Yep.
Stir of Echoes, Mission Impossible, Ghost Town, which is dumb but fun. Um, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I really liked. So I'm okay with that. I didn't think it was the greatest of all times, but it definitely made up for the last one. No, you didn't like it? But you liked Beetlejuice, John. I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on. The Mummy. He wrote The Mummy for Tom Cruise, which I'm sure you're not a
Yes.
fan of.
You know
So that's
what?
what I'm saying.
There, no, that I have mixed feelings. There is as much to like about that movie as there is to dislike.
I agree. I love that. I love that movie because I go, there's so much good in this. Like if you edited it down to like 90 minutes, you probably have a dope mummy movie.
And if you just leaned in like Tom Cruise and Jake Johnson, like fucking around in the desert, like that's your movie.
Oh my
And
God, Jake
every time it's
Johnson.
just the two of them.
We should do one of these on that because that's wildly underrated. And it's kind of like American Werewolf in London meets, Sahara. And it
Hmm.
just really kind of works for me for a lot. And then there's a
That's
lot that I'm like, but then most of it's like,
there's a lot about it where I was just like, not to get into like a mummy discussion here, but
yeah,
like
now we're going to Mummy. Yeah.
there's a lot that like I didn't want. It was kind of bloated, but there's these little bits where I'm like, the if you yeah there's surprising amount of things that work in it and that I kind of like once I accepted this movie isn't what I wanted. Now I kind of appreciate what it is, and what it
Yeah.
is kind of one of the silliest movies Tom Cruise has ever made
I,
in a good
you know,
way.
I liked it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. But any case,
No.
so Mission Impossible.
So
But
yeah.
I
Anyway,
think
but
I think that Mission Impossible has its fingerprints all over the Mummy. And I feel like it's one of those times where Tom did what he did for this movie and some of the other Mission Impossibles he's really taken the reins early on. And
yeah.
I feel like where the Mummy failed, Mission Impossible really he's the one that brought in De Palma. He's
Well,
the
that's what I
one
was about
that,
to get to. Was that so?
yeah.
I know David Koepp has a credit, but so does Robert Town. And the thing that made it interesting to me, especially in the '90s, was like when you had such a big range of working action directors who were all like '90s action directors, and they didn't go for any of them. There's no Jan de Bont
Right.
here, like
Oh yeah,
not,
Jan de Bont was big at the time,
all
yeah.
that
And
shit. They
John
could
Woo
have
who did do
Rennie
the second one.
Harlan.
Rennie
Like there's
Harlan,
so
yeah.
many people working right. McTiernan.
No, no, I like McTiernan.
I
He
like
could have
Mc.
done one. I would have loved one of
No,
these movies by McTiernan, I'll tell you.
so I'm just saying of that era. It really felt to me that you could tell what a big fan Tom Cruise is of movies
Yeah.
when he as a producer goes, I want that old bastard who wrote fucking Chinatown to write this. I want to get like Brian De Palma had made studio movies up till that point, but
Right.
you know between Carrie was kind of a hit. It was, but like Body Double, like he
Yeah,
did a
well,
lot of these
I remember that movie, yeah.
um, there's these are not blockbusters.
Yeah.
They are stylish. They are filmmaker driven. I hate to use the word auteur, but I mean Brian De Palma really is kind of got his fingers in fucking everything. So anyway, the fact that Tom Cruise,
Untouchables.
okay, that was a big studio. I'm like, I'm forgetting something. So there we
Untouchable.
go.
But Untouchables was, and
But
Scarface,
getting
obviously, but
Brian to like, but I'm just saying, Tom Cruise was like, no, I need to get some real, genuine film nerds, some scholars. I need the guy who wrote Chinatown
yeah.
to write this, and in that sense, like you're checking off all these things. Like Brian De Palma is such a like I. Full disclosure, when I was younger, I did not like Brian De Palma. I have grown into becoming a fan, but I used to always say, if I want to watch a Hitchcock movie, I'll just go watch a Hitchcock movie.
Right, right,
Like,
right.
but the thing about Brian De Palma is I understand I understand where he's coming from. I get it. So when you tell me like, oh, like there's basically a million Chekhov's guns in this movie.
Oh yeah.
This whole movie, in a weird way, I know it's a Brian De Palma movie, but I mean, it's essentially a Hitchcock movie. It's essentially North by
Yeah.
Northwest, Wrong Man.
Well,
We've
there's
got
even there's shots
there's
that are
Psycho
that didn't even
shot when they're at the. I mean, there's a million shots. You go, oh, that's from this, that's from that, that's from that.
yeah.
And the movie benefits, I think, from being
Hmm.
Brian De Palma's Hitchcock's Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it's funny because like the shot that like we started watching the movie and the shot that made me go, oh wow, that's a was I was like, oh, that's a great shot. That's a Hitchcock shot. And it's the shot where um they're prepping they're doing the opening mission where they're like where they have the setup and everything. And he's like, are you ready? Are you ready? And right behind him, you see where he's like talking to the guy and like Dimitri, and you see them doing the drops over his shoulder. Like
Mhm.
it's just really well done. And yeah, it's funny because
There's
it's totally a Hitchcock shot.
there's so much visual information that, and I remember specifically. Do you remember this in the '90s? Because there's also a lot of very straightforward movies in the '90s. Nothing wrong with that, but
Mm.
Mission Impossible was really playing with all these little tricks of cinema that your average moviegoer wasn't like ready for. And I
Hmm.
know so many people who were like confused by Mission Impossible.
Oh, I
They
was
didn't
saying
fucking
that today.
understand. And if you watch it now, it's a pretty fucking straightforward story. But the way they tell it to you is like A to B to C. We're going to leave B out, but we are going to include B visually. We're going to treat you like you're smart enough to follow what we are showing you without telling you. And some
Well,
people
we're
kind of
gonna
got
show you,
lost.
yeah, we're gonna show you C, but describe D over it.
Yeah, that confused so many people in the '90s.
Well, it's funny because I was telling my wife because she was watching it with me, and I said, because she complains when dumb stuff happens in movies. She's just nah. She'll call it out, and so I was like, hey, you should watch this sequence because I think you're really gonna dig it because this character i- is describing what happened, but describing it as if it's this person when he knows it's the person he's talking to. And she was like, what? I go, his flashes, what he's seeing is what he knows happened. But what he says is what this guy wants to hear. And so he's doing that simultaneously and narrating the actual thing that happened, but narrating with bad information. So your brain is seeing it, but your ears are hearing the opposite. It's really interesting. Like
And Tom
see, and that's
Cruise
a,
acts it so good.
he goes, and also like there's this shot where he goes, so and so, one of the other characters, like, oh, they had to he couldn't do that. He couldn't do it alone. And then he thinks of the person that
Mhm.
would have had to have helped him, and he goes, no, that can't be them, because he doesn't want it to be that person.
Right.
It's so well done. It's masterful. I'm just gonna blow it right here. I think Mission Impossible is probably one of the greatest action movies of all time. Definitely who done it, definitely mystery, intrigue. Um, I think it's just masterful. It's written incredibly well. It's shot even better, and it's edited
Mm.
even better.
Yeah.
It's everybody working on the film and everybody in the movie is a star or will be a star. Um, and I think the in general, there's just something else that might ignite you because I think you like this character as much as I do. I think the best thing in this Mission Impossible movie, the best character, is Keatridge. He is the absolute best character in this movie. And I think that that's a good example of everybody all the way down from
Hmm.
top to the bottom are killing it. The only thing that, it's up to the actors to make you side with them or hate that you have to side with them.
Hmm.
Or, you know what I'm saying? There's John Voight does a great job of it where he's like, you're like, oh, I fucking hate this guy. Like the first thing he does is just shoots his wife in the chest, and you're, oh, like you love him and he's such a good, and him and Tom Cruise are really good together. And then at the end, you hate that this is, which I get why fans, but it was done so well, Kittredge, my wife was like, so wait, is he the bad guy? I said, no, he's the good guy. The problem is he thinks Tom is the bad guy. And Tom is like, I'm not the bad guy. So it's like you got all these characters that are doing different things. Even what's his name? The guy who played the professional that's on his team.
Oh yeah.
You like him because he's such a good actor, and you like him because he's a cool character, but you hate him because he keeps screwing with Tom. And it's just so well done. Like everybody is a bad guy in this. Everybody is a good guy. And I think this movie, like I said, Keatridge, I think is a good example
Yeah.
of an actor
Well,
killing it.
and Henry Czerny is always great in
Mhm.
everything. Such an underrated actor.
Clear and present danger, baby. All day, top to bottom, clear and present danger for me. Woo.
Uh,
I love him in that.
I actually go back to this one a lot, and then in the recent years, Radio Silence likes to use him. He was in Ready or Not and Scream 6, and both times I'm like, thank you for employing this
Really?
man. He's great.
I didn't know that he
Dude,
was in the Scream
spoiler
movie.
alert, dude gets killed by Ghostface. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even, let me see, I'm looking at the cast list. Yeah,
What,
he's
of Scream 6?
no of just of no of his I was looking at the cast list for Clear Prison Danger and um Mission Impossible because yeah, I think he's great and they brought him back in later movies, but
Yeah.
wish they would have just kept him through, but we've had our whole fill of good and new characters in the series that have come in and kind of taken that part, including Alec Baldwin and stuff, but
Yeah.
that kind of foil. Um
Oh my gosh. Maybe this is for a different episode, but like, over the course of the series, it's like, oh, well, now it's Anthony Hopkins, ah, ha, ha, but now it's Morpheus, ah, ha, 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 but now it's Alec Baldwin. Like, we're always going to have the new. There's always some new chief,
yeah. Yeah,
which
yeah.
is fine. Whatever, I don't care. But I'm really glad you brought up what a great you consider it one of the great action movies, because one of the things that strikes me every single time I watch it, like a ton of bricks, and it hit me this time like it always does, is I'm watching it, right? And I'm thrilled. Sometimes I'm on the edge of my seat, even though I've seen this 30, 40 times. And I'm thrilled at the CIA heist at Langley. And
Mhm.
about three-quarters of the way through, I always go, there's never been a shootout in this entire movie. Nobody's
Mhm.
punched anybody. One guy almost gets stabbed with a knife and he gets stopped, but it's not till Ethan and old balls, what's his name, John Voight, when they're on the train, and it's not just even they're on the train, it's when they slide down and they're kind of hitting each other for a little bit. I'm like, this movie's an hour 50 minutes. No shooty
Mhm.
shooty, no punchy punchy. One
Yep.
car explodes, it flips, and then at the very end, a helicopter explodes. This is
Mhm.
not an action movie, and
Y-
it is thrilling,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's funny because
thrilling,
like yeah, oh God,
and
the
like you said,
train.
because of technique,
Mhm.
this movie is expertly crafted
Mhm. I would
through
say yeah.
cinematography, through camera movement, through fucking sound design and editing. And the editing, it's so suspenseful. And it's
It's
just
yeah.
like, well, we're gonna do the scene, right? Where it's gonna be really quiet. He's gonna be on a rope, and what happens if you say on paper, well, he swings, he catches a dewdrop of sweat, and it doesn't sound like it's gonna be that intense. So fucking intense.
It's so intense. Absolute silence.
Even just the momentum, like Max is on her fucking laptop, and Ving Rhames gets up, and now his phone that's blocking it is out of range, and we're cutting back to just through the
Uh,
window of someone assembling a gun, and it's all Hitchcock. It's all we know, but they don't, and we're building towards something, and
hmm
nothing active, no action is happening.
hmm
There are later Mission Impossible movies where people are on a train and they're fighting and they're flipping someone over a table, and it's great. I love it. This is just as thrilling, getting up and forgetting your phone and having someone get the phone and go fuck, and then like
I think that's something that I miss a lot in the series
yeah, this is the
currently.
only one that really does that. It's the standout.
Well,
Because John Woo forward, they're like, make sure shooty, shooty, punchy, punchy.
yeah, the John Woo one, we'll attack that one later, but yeah. I'm interested to watch it after all these years because I haven't seen it in at least 10, maybe.
Longer for me,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, because I that's literally the one I never rewatch. Um, but
Same.
we'll talk about that one. But hopefully, but the it's visually stunning. But this one is so, like you said, expertly crafted. Because even this is stupid. It's one of my stupid things about it. I love TV shows. I love music videos and I love TV shows. And when TV shows have a great, I always watch the TV show's intro. So whenever you're streaming and it's like skip intro, I never do that. Every episode needs that from me. Most people like hate it and they skip it and want to fast forward. For me, it's required. And in this movie, the
Oh,
the opening credits are the opening credits of like the TV show, but it's with clips from this movie and it's from throughout the movie with no spoilers because it's all out of context, so you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's literally a TV show intro for Mission Impossible with
Of the
footage of
movie
this
you're gonna
movie.
see.
Yeah, it's like there's that. There's the airplane conversation with Mr. Phelps. It's a lot of stuff, but it feels like it goes by so quick. And then all of a sudden, uh, when they're in proc and that whole thing goes down, and like there's multiple operations going on, and the movie truly doesn't start until it's like almost 45 minutes into the movie, where you've gone through um, two different missions with the original team, in the second of which they all get horrifically murdered. I mean, that whole sequence is so shocking because they also used great actors that you've seen in other movies that you like. So like Emilio Estevez, man, in
Dude,
1996 to do that to Emilio blew my mind.
when
I
he
didn't
gets
know
that thing in his face, I still can't believe that's PG. It's not bloody, but you could see it go in his
you
face.
see it go in his
I can't
face.
believe
Yeah.
that you wouldn't get away with that. I feel like in the PG-13 now.
No. No,
No, but you're
I
right. You're right. Because I remember specifically, I remember seeing the preview, and I remember seeing like Ving Rhames and Tom Cruise a lot. And I remember sitting in the theater going, "Oh, I didn't know fucking Emilio Estevez. I didn't know Kristen Scott Thomas was.
yeah.
Oh fuck, why aren't?" And I remember I didn't think, "Oh, they're all dead." I just remember being really surprised. But when they all died, I went, "Yeah, that makes sense. I see. I got you." Um,
Hmm.
which in the '90s, I was happy that I was young enough and naive enough to not see through it,
Hmm.
but also smart enough to go, "Oh yeah, of course. That's why you're
But
not
that's
putting them
yeah, no,
for
because what
marketing."
I
But you put Emilio Estevez in a movie, and also they downplay. Remember, like I think it was maybe that same year or 2 years later, '96 or '98. Executive Decision came out with Kurt Russell.
see that's what I was going to mention.
Before
Like,
you even saw it, all you heard was the "Go to fucking kill Steven Seagal. You got to see it. 'Cause Steven Seagal dies." They
I
don't
didn't
say
hear
shit
that.
about Mission. Oh, really?
Okay, so first of all,
Oh, I knew going in.
I hate Steven Seagal. I hate his movies. Like Hard to Kill, even he's awful. He's never done anything worth substance. I hate to be negative, but he's awful.
Under Siege.
Then
Anyway,
I will never succumb to the Under Siege disease. I won't
bummer.
do it. I won't do
Anyway,
it. Okay. After saying that, I'll watch it and then we'll see what I think. But this is what but he did Under Siege 2, which is not forgivable. Like I
but
forgive Die Hard
oh,
2, but
but
I'm
Eric
not going to
Bogosian's one of
forgive.
my favorite writers and playwrights, and he's the villain. So like, I'll watch it for him. I fucking love him. Anyway,
But I went into executive decision not knowing and only going because it was whatever year it was. And I went to the movies every Friday or Saturday and saw what came out right then. I was on top of it, saw every movie in the theaters. We're going. And my parents wanted to go see Executive Decision. I said, absolutely. I said, Kurt Russell's in it. I hope Steven Seagal dies. I can't stand him. And they were all laughing at me. And I wasn't researching the movie because I hadn't been. And I remember sitting in the theater and the whole opening operation and everything. Steven Seagal flies out of that thing, and I was like, "Oh my!" I was like, "He reminds me of Bedazzled." Un momento, mise established. Like I was so shocked when he died. I was like, "This movie's fucking great." There was like 15 minutes in it, and so in this movie, I I went like this. As soon as they all died, I went, "Oh, it figures because it's going to be Tom creating his new team, and
mhm.
that's what we're doing." And
Well,
then I didn't expect, and then the ending, I did call the ending, but I called the ending like 15 to 20 minutes before the ending, not super early in the movie because it genuinely moved so quick and so many things were happening that I didn't have time to kind of like start, where is this going? I didn't get to, because there's no break in this movie.
mm-mm.
I think the only break they cut out, which was the sex scene. I think that's the only break that the movie would have had, and they cut it out. So but I genuinely was surprised. But I did, I same similar. I was like, okay, so this is where we're going. But when it happened, I was genuinely surprised because there were two missions. There was even a time where they were hanging like, oh, so because I remember going, well, the promo had a lot of Tom Cruise, but nobody else. The poster only has Tom Cruise on it. And I was
Yeah,
like, well, maybe they all die over time. I didn't expect them all to die in the first,
opening.
30 minutes
Yeah,
of the movie. Yeah.
and the shocking thing was, and also it's first of all he can't help it. It's just his charm. Emilio Estevez is just a charismatic actor.
he
but
and
just them doing the little briefing scene, with John Voight, and them just still jumping around, and then him explaining like, "Asa lasagna, don't get any on yet." Like, you already like this dude. We're all on the comms on the
uh
elevator, fucking around.
yes. Oh yeah, it's a lonely
Date with
ass.
Sarah is definitely off. Like, we're all
Oh yeah.
we're all we're
That
all having
date
a
with
great time
Sarah is
here.
definitely off. Yeah, and then also him and Tom had really good rapport. Like I
Yeah,
remember going, "Oh, I want to see these guys in adventures," but it all went
and
so well, and they all
and
played it so well. You believe they were a team of people.
and it's nice. I just made this connection now, but I mean, they're all like Tom Cruise was. We're talking like The Outsiders, talking Risky Business, while Emilio's
Hmm.
doing Breakfast Club, and like this is all the same generation.
Hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But while we're still talking about the beginning, one of the things that I find amusing about this, um, two things about the very, very opening, is one, it's amusing how modest it is. Because you have to remember, and you, the audience, not necessarily you, BJ, but like, there were no other Mission Impossible movies. And this show was like 30 years old, over 30 years
Hmm.
old. So, like, we were just establishing like an opening scene where someone's being interrogated. And then
Right.
the payoff is just, ah ha ha, it's spy shit. And the wall opens up and they're in a warehouse. And then the credits go. Whereas now he'd be hanging off the side of a plane, he'd be doing
Hmm.
backflips over a thing. And those are all very exciting intros. But I just find it amusing to go back to the first one. And your big intro is just like some people talking in a room, and then, oh, we have to wake her up before she dies. And then the wall's in a mask. It's not
Get rid of that
like,
scum. I
yeah,
loved
and
it.
then it's like, do we get him? It's like, we got him. And then the credits go because
Dun,
because
dun,
it's
dun,
about
dun, dun.
espionage. It's not about action.
Hmm.
And I just
Hmm.
like how modest the opening is. But what I also like is how, even though maybe on paper it's modest, it's actually giving you a lot of thematic, and like, we're not just telling you about who these people are and how they operate. I mean, if there is a through line through a lot of Brian De Palma's work, it's voyeurism, and the fact that we are starting in on people watching people on a monitor, just the way we're
Yeah.
watching people on a screen, and the fact that this is essentially, um, like, they're building, like, he's letting you know, like, we're watching a movie, and this movie
Yeah.
is such a movie, and the fact that he opens by telling you, like, oh, we built a set, and we're all making pretend, like, it's like a metaphor, man, is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
versus just a dumb opening to a movie.
Yeah.
It really does set the stakes thematically for everything you're about to go watch.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
great.
and also, it also, and that's one of the things. It's like you said, Chekhov's gun. It's the gun on the wall. As soon as he pulls that off, and the walls, there are no rules. Like these people can do anything. Be prepared.
Yeah,
And I didn't even watch that and go, oh, the trickery is afoot. No, I was just like, oh, that's cool. And then the next, and then as the mystery starts happening and you're trying to figure out what happened, all of that stuff comes into play because they're all full of shit and they're all really good at, like he
yeah,
said, these people are ghosts. We train them to be that way. Like that whole thing is apparent in that opening scene. I mean, they literally had her drugged to the point where her heart was not beating and her body was cold. And they're like, yo, get it out of him or she's going to die.
yeah.
You know, um,
And we're going to
and I
establish
mean it.
that we live in a world where masks are a thing, and
Yep.
within 1 second they sell you on it, so going forward, this is how it's going to be.
Oh, and it pays off at the end when he's sitting in the train. Jim, and he goes, "Rrrr," and it's him, and you're like,
And can we talk about how, like, this is not like The Thing, this is not like a Rick Baker movie, but like, it's Rob
mm-hmm,
Bottin doing this, one of the
yeah,
best to ever do it.
mm-hmm,
And all you need is two. Well, technically, I do love when they're about to get in the elevator and you see him actually rip a real mask, and like the ear kind of
the
breaks
ear
off.
rips, yeah,
Yeah, but if you're gonna do this and we're gonna sell us on it, we need an expert, and it needs to be good, and not
mm-hmm.
just in makeup. The actual taking off needs to be good.
And it's the very
This
beginning of
movie,
CGI. I mean, the CGI is
oh,
like
dude,
very
that's the.
early.
Oh, it's
It's
some of
so
the
good for,
best
yeah,
because they're starting on one. They're dissolving to like a CGI, and then they're connecting to like the matches between the three kind of, I don't want to call them plates, but the three phases,
yeah,
expertly done.
yeah,
Expertly. So much so there's certain shots where, like, I could tell in the middle of it, like, oh, that's CGI, but I can't tell where the one ends and the next one starts.
Right, because there's this one where he goes like this, and it looks real until you see a little bit right here different, and then it comes off, and you're like, so one was a makeup, one was CG, and one was a mask, and
Yeah,
they make it all look, and
so good.
that's
And
one of the
here's the
things that kind of gets tired in the second movies because they try to redo that,
oh
but none
yeah.
of it looks as clean as that one,
Well, and I
as the
remember
first one.
the common complaint from a lot of people I talked to when you talked about movies to people all the time. Everyone always said too much with the fucking masks. All these fucking
Mhm.
masks in two, too much.
Yeah,
Not a problem with the first movie.
and the first one is
You
perfect.
almost kind of forget about it until
Well,
the end. You go, oh fucking yeah,
this you forget. What you're like, what the hell is he doing? And they even show him holding his glasses when he's pretending to
yeah.
kill himself. He just goes like, and I'm like, what magic trick is he doing now? And he set that up too with all his magic trick crap. And then he just goes, and I remember sitting there, what's he doing? And then he
And we
goes, and then as soon as he looked at
push
his
it
watch, I
on
was like,
Kittredge. Yeah.
yeah. Then he just goes, good morning, Mr. Phelps. I'm not the only one that's seen you alive. Boom, and throw it. It's so good.
And what a
Good
great
morning, Mr. Phelps.
and when you go to see a movie based on a TV show where you know the line or the thing, to throw in the "Good morning, Mister Fel," like, come
Oh,
on,
so good. When he just turns it on, he goes, good morning, Mr. Phelps. I was just like, oh, it's so well done. It's like
so good.
this. So, like when movies really land putting the famous theme, pop song, whatever,
Hmm.
into a film, like one that does it poorly is like Live and Let Die. It literally is every 5 seconds. It doesn't land. It doesn't really match what's going on. It's an action scene. This one. Dunna, dude, when he's on the jumps on the helicopter, doom, 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 doom. So all of those references are just there in perfect times. Or what red light, green light, boom, and he jumps, and the explosion happens, and it goes bunna, and it's the end of the I can't. It's just
It's perfect.
it's really, really, really well done. Everything is exactly right.
We talk about this being a turning point for Tom Cruise. This was the first time, without trying to sound condescending, this is the first time I felt Danny Elfman like
Yeah,
being
something different.
getting to like do a big boy movie.
Yeah.
And I remember being really impressed that he, because he was capable of plenty,
Yes.
and this really showed it. And especially in the very beginning, because the beginning is all just percussions.
Right. Oh yeah, it's very
And then later,
Patriot
I learned
games.
that
Yeah.
he is very much a percussive guy, collects
Hmm.
drums, blah blah blah, from around the
Hmm.
world. So I go, oh, this opening makes sense. But you're right; he doesn't really rely on the theme to an abundance, but
Right.
kind of like how Casino Royale earns the Bond theme. And granted, they
Right.
don't hold it off to such a degree or anything.
Right.
But the fact that he leaps on a helicopter to what I consider a superhero cue. It's like ba
Yeah.
ba
Yeah.
ba
Yeah.
ba. It's Superman's
Doom,
fucking
doom,
cape.
doom, doom, doom.
And
It's
then
like
we
it
go
totally goes
into,
into it.
and now
Yeah.
it tells you we're in the climax now. Like,
Hmm.
there's no 10 more minutes of like
Hmm.
we're on it. Like, it's almost like a spoiler, but in a
It's
good way.
moment to moment. You're like, here we go. Like it's just
But the second he goes into that theme, I have just like an ongoing playlist of things, and I have two tracks from this movie. One's the opening credits,
hmm.
and the other one is what we're describing.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
jump onto the helicopter, because also
Yeah.
the lead up into it. Just as we're starting
Yeah.
out on this train to Paris, and it's all like ominous and oppressive. And again, there's a lot of percussions and the horns, bum, 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 and it's like danger is coming, danger
Yep.
is coming. There is a helicopter, danger is
Yeah.
afoot. It's fucking so good, so
Yeah,
good.
it's and it's funny because like I feel bad for Danny Elfman because another movie that I thought his orchestration really stood out and was something different and wasn't la 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 da 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 fat chords from old horror movies
You're gonna say Good Will Hunting,
was no, although it's a great movie and it's
and
great, but
a
I don't
very
think
good Danny Elfman score.
right. But I thought a great score to a movie was his Planet of the Apes score. I was very
Mm,
impressed with his score in that,
I love
and
it.
I wish that movie had been better and also been better embraced because I feel like his score was written to be a series of films, much like his Batman score felt like this was a something that could be consistent. His percussive, animalistic kind of,
Hmm.
he literally found primitive music all over the world, especially percussion. And as as far back and as primitive of music from every culture and every different place, he put together to make this really interesting score for
Oh,
Planet of the Apes, and it's beautiful. Like the opening credits, obviously there's nothing that compares to Batman for me because personal reasons. The Batman theme. But I thought when I saw that, I was like, that stands out to me. Like
hmm.
I could get this soundtrack, and
I
no offense to
did.
Danny Elfman, yeah, but he doesn't typically do soundtracks outside of Batman for me to go, oh, I have to have that soundtrack. Like I'll listen to it, and but Batman Returns, and I thought Planet of the Apes, and of course I had Mission Impossible, both the pop album, which was fantastic as well, and the orchestral soundtrack by Elfman, and it was fantastic. I think this and like Apes really show him in a different light that he doesn't get to do very often. And he
No, I
killed it in this. I mean, this
I
is
don't love
this
apes,
this
but I
sounds
love
like
that soundtrack.
yeah, this sounds like Red October. This sounds like,
Well,
but in his way. It's really
no,
well
but he
done.
really he rises to the De Palma challenge because this movie has such strong visual identity,
Hmm.
and he would do it a disservice if he didn't match it.
I agree.
So, like, and I think the cinematographers talked about this. Like, the movie, for his intention, has three phases. It has
Hmm.
the Prague third, then we go to America, and then we go to London.
Hmm.
And Prague is shot to feel like old Europe. The
Yep.
alleys are foggy. Half of the drama is that, like, we don't know what the fuck is happening to this mission. We don't know who that
Yeah.
couple is in the fog. But wait, is he whispering in her ear? What's
So
happening?
good.
What's happening to Chris Scott Thomas? What's happening?
The
Shadows,
other team,
fog,
the other team,
distance.
Keatridge. Why were
But
they? You're worried about me? Why? So
all
good.
that shit, right? When we
Yeah.
get to Langley, it's very crisp. It's very
Hmm.
bright.
Clean, sterile.
And ironically enough, it's the opposite of the beginning. We know everything that's happening. We've
Hmm.
laid out to you what the plan is, and now we're doing it. And Tom Cruise is hiding, and we are showing the guy shitting himself in the fucking bathroom, and all the data is there. It's very out in front and center.
Zero body count.
Yeah, so very specific act breaks in visual tone as far as color palettes, as far as visual information,
Hmm.
and Danny Elfman meets all that, especially in my opinion.
Hmm.
Because the second act gets very, I almost want to call it like American, but it's very like
Hmm.
drum, American
Yeah,
soldiers,
it's got that Jack
we are
Ryan
American
vibe.
agents. But the
Hmm.
first act feels moody and
Yeah,
mysterious, and
yeah.
for lack of a better
European.
word, Euro espionage ish.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so good job for him for matching that.
Yeah, no, I
And
think.
I love the first third of this.
Mhm.
I love the fact that we're still in these sort of old, for lack of very proggish looking old buildings that are our safe houses. And
Mhm.
to me, like, for being a 90s movie, it's still harkened back to an era of what I like my spy shit to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we're gonna bring up. You had to bring him up. But it's kind of got the first couple of Bond movies vibe to it in the first act, the first third. It's got
Well, they get
Russia
there's an
from Russia with
excuse for them to
Love
dress
kind
up.
of.
Yeah, yeah, we get to
Yeah,
dress up in our suits.
that's another good point. Is that like later on, Keatridge and the agents show up and they're in full suits and a fedora, and it feels remarkably okay when
Yeah,
you're like, this is the '90s, but
and I
he would
think
wear a fedora.
only Kittredge is wearing the fedora.
Hmm.
And in the
Yeah.
90s, it would have, yeah, I watched that. And I only noticed it this viewing after all my
Hmm.
viewings, but I'm like, Kittredge is wearing a fedora, and I
Yeah.
don't hate it. It fits
Hmm.
for this. It makes him feel like such a G man.
Yeah, yeah. He's wildly intimidating in this movie for a guy who, and that's one of my gripes about the later Mission Impossibles when he shows up, is he's not as intimidating. In the first one, he scares me. Like I remember going,
And
oh my God, he's not even the villain, but he's the most
right.
powerful and dangerous guy in the room. Like
And
when
he's not wrong either.
no, no, no,
For if
no.
there is a mole,
this
I
is how
get
we
why
get rid
you
of
did
them.
this hunt.
Hmm.
And I
Well,
love that
and
at the end of the movie there isn't some like kind of like apology.
yeah, no, it's like this is
No,
welcome. You know the career,
this is
and
how it is.
yeah, and you if you accept this mission, great. Then you're with us. If you're not, then peace out. We don't care.
Yeah.
We've taken care of you. You're done. We hired your buddy, but if you want to come back, great. If not, fuck off. And I think
And
because
even
also I
then,
love
it's like, but
his
not fuck off. You get on the plane, we're gonna recruit you for the next mission right now.
yeah, exactly. Well, and I love well, no, 'cause that's the funny because I think when he gets on there, that's when they truly recruit him. I just don't know why I'd be coming back. Yeah, but when he just and then he looks at the camera and the soundtrack starts, it's just but yeah, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something, but yeah, it's great. It's
Kittredge,
Kittredge. Oh, so
scary.
later, so one of the last things that he does is when Max goes, "I'm sure I've got something you want." You expect him to say Booker. He look and she goes, "My lawyers are going to have a field day with this," and he goes, "Just keep the courts out of this one." And I'm like, this that guy scares me. Like he's
Yeah.
so powerful that he just straight up is like, "We're going to take you and put you in a box, and we're going to find out what you know." And no one's
Oh,
like it's just so
the
scary
oh,
to
see, the
me.
impression I get was that like, oh, you're gonna come. We're gonna like. It's all about the backdoor deals. It's all about the
Oh, okay.
rebellion is secretly working with crooked arms dealers for their X-wings. Like, oh, we're gonna
Totally.
get. You're gonna work for us now.
Great Last Jedi reference.
We're gonna
Also,
yeah.
that was an original Star Wars thing even before Last Jedi, so that's accurate that they were both made
Hmm.
by the same things. Anyways, go ahead. From
I'm just saying that
nerd,
like I'm not saying he's bringing her into the fold, but like, oh, we're
we
gonna get
got
what we need out of
mutual.
you. Yeah, we're
Oh,
gonna
okay. See,
shady dealings, shadows
to
of the
me,
empire. The
yeah,
empire
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's her in the black sun.
Hmm.
Like it's all
It totally felt to me like he was like, why don't we just put you in a box
like,
and not tell anybody
oh
about it? And I was like
no, I
this.
like that.
It scared the shit out of me.
I just
Like
always thought
that's
like, no, there's no justice here. She is going to, you know,
yeah.
she's going to get a pass for giving up something important, and
Well, and I don't know if this is a reason, but this might be for me. I grew up um in a family that was in aerospace and worked for government and stuff. And so a lot of these and military. And so there are certain things that my parents would say, my grandparents, my, whatever, things they would say. And one of them, when it would come to like, well, what happens, da, 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 they just leave the justice system out of that one.
yeah,
And they used to say that to me, and I'd be like this, the hell does that mean?
means they
And
end
so
up
when I
in a
saw this
box.
movie, yeah, they're gonna put you in a box and you're gonna tell them what they want. Yeah, your lawyer's not gonna hear about this because your lawyer's gonna not remember who you were after they scare the shit out of him. So yeah, I this one also is wildly, truly government feeling to me. The way they talk, the way they act, their perception, their perspective on things. Um, which is another cool thing about it. And Kittredge especially, like once again, is kind of like is the vice for that. Like he really, it feels real. Like this is the government. It's like, well, okay, we don't have him. Okay, well, let's go arrest his.
Yeah,
Like I love that line. He goes, "How do you think that marching mom and Uncle Donald down to the courthouse?" And I'm just like, it, it's to me, it sounds very government. It seems very realistic.
yeah,
Kittredge scares the shit out of me, even though I'm on the same side as Kittredge. But I love that, I'm going to steal the thing they thought they were going to steal, and I'm going to set you up so the guy who is coming after me gets you, and I can walk away.
he's playing in the
Uh,
gray space between
yeah,
right and wrong.
right. It's
Yeah,
correct. It's
especially in the
cool.
way that like, oh, we just got here and Max and Ethan are gone. Do everyone's like, let's go after him. He's like, nah, you know what? Let's just not go after him. We just
Yeah,
find what's important to him and squeeze.
squeeze.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
that's
like
just so much worse. That's
it's so much worse. And this the second movie I remember, and no disrespect to Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins, but I remember I was so excited for Mission Impossible 2.
oh, so was I.
And when Kittredge was not in it, I was so bummed out. I was glad that 3 and 4 and 5 and Infinity were all great, in their own ways. And I like that they added Jeremy Renner, and I was glad that they liked the Alec Baldwin and all that stuff. But I think Kittredge was just, to me, he grounds the movie. And maybe that's why they got rid of him because the movies are like, he's going to jump a motorcycle off a cliff. But the Kittredge made it feel really real to me in that first movie. Like he's scary. He's a government CIA scary put you in a box type of guy. He sounds like he works for Dick Cheney. He freaks me out. It's a great character. Well, I mean, like in Clear and Present
And
Danger, him and Harrison Ford are chasing faxes and trying to just delete files, and for some reason he makes it sound so intense. The whole movie is so intense because him versus Harrison Ford, and he's essentially playing a very similar character. Not the same by any means, but very similar, where they're like trying to get records, before they delete them, and they're running through this office, and it's so interesting, and he's just so fantastic.
one of the things I like like it's that scene in the restaurant because at the
Mm.
beginning of the scene, he's like, "Well, we'll get you out. We'll do this," and it's all very very nice.
Oh, and he just turns,
But we
boom.
already know that he thinks he's the mole. So he's like,
Mhm.
well, and then we got your passports. We'll take care of. It's when Ethan calls him on his bluff essentially and calls out all the spies in the room and the second team and all
Mhm.
that. When he kind of like that's when you're like, oh no, this
All
is who
right,
you really
Hunt.
are.
Yeah.
That,
All right, Hunt. You've killed and controlled.
like you said, you survived. Like,
And he goes,
but I
yeah,
get the impression like this is who the guy really is, and everything in the beginning of
yeah.
that scene is horse shit,
Hmm.
and that's scary.
Yeah, yeah, he scares the shit. Dude, he goes, and I love that Tom is just sitting there boiling, and you see him starting to like boil over, and he's crying, and he's doing this. Like it's so intense. And we've all been like felt like that.
Mm.
And he feels cornered, and Tom is like, what the hell do I do? And then he just goes, I understand you're very upset. Kittredge, you've never seen me very upset. And then he's all right, Hunt. And he folds the gum under the table like it's all
And we're doing that slow
done.
push in where he's holding the gum, and then he finally decides to mash it because we know he's
Yeah, yeah, he's
gonna.
like, and he just goes, and he goes, boom, and he gets
And
it wet and throws it across and then
and I've seen
dunk.
that. Like I know, like I've like it's so perfectly edited. Like I have it memorized. Like this way the
Hmm.
glass on the table and the throw, and then just that little
The
initial
guy,
burst, and
the
that
guy behind the glass
it's
when he
like a
goes bunk,
lens
and
flare
he
that
goes,
just flares out for a second. Yeah, and then the
oh,
guy
it's
like
so
it's
good.
every single moment is neither a half a
Hmm.
second longer or shorter than it's perfect.
Yeah, and it happens so quick. Like if you even blink, if you look down, you're gonna miss what happens. But when he goes, you just see him fold the green over his thumb, and you see him
Mm-hmm.
go like this. And as soon as you see him make that fist, you know that he just mashed it. And when he throws it across dunk, and the guy looks, and then you see Tom just go,
And that guy's like,
boom.
whoa!
Oh my God. It's just, and then he runs over him out of
Oh yeah,
and then he's
and
hauling ass. Oh, so good. And
and
I'm like,
what's
there he
great.
is. He's running.
Well, and while we're talking about that scene, that scene is one of the best examples. There's so many, but if you wanted to isolate just one scene that's an example, like there's a version of this movie by another director where it's the same dialogue, but it's medium, close
Mhm.
up, medium, you know. But the fact that he's like the other team, and then like he describes it, and we show the guy, the waiter,
Bow
and we
tie,
cut
4 o'clock.
to yeah, but then and then we start on he's seated behind Kittredge. We start on him and like pull back. So we're using all these tricks, and then as we're building tension, it's like low angle, Dutch tilt, low angle, Dutch tilt. Like
It's all about
everything
that
about
Dutch
that
angle,
scene,
bro.
everything that you're describing about how you're feeling, it's all being conveyed through shot selection, camera movement, editing.
Yeah,
Every choice in that scene is not only crafted, but like it's cinematic. It's
mhm.
using fucking cinema to get you to feel what Tom Cruise is feeling. It's
Oh,
fucking great. And that
and
like I love a lot of the other movies.
oh, me too. Oh,
None
yeah,
of them
yeah.
none of them are doing like what this movie's doing. And it's funny because in some of those other movies they try to get you to feel more about Ethan Hunt. We're going to reveal little things about him. I
Mhm.
feel more in this movie knowing
Mhm.
nothing about him, but
Right.
I'm with him
Yeah,
when he's
when
fucking
he,
listening to the shit and he's like
yeah,
every
yeah,
single cut, every so good.
yeah, when they, because I remember that too. Like, and I get why they were doing it. It's because they were trying to do something different because the second movie did what it did. But yeah, they keep trying to make him a person, and it's kind of like Law and Order. Like the less I know about the cops, I know he's an alcoholic. I know that he's this, or he's kind of racist, or he's having problems with his daughter, or he has a criminal any of that type of stuff. You learn about the characters in the situation as opposed to telling you oh, at
Yeah.
home I have to deal with my wife and I pretend that I work for the traffic control thing and all of it works and it's all fine and none of it bothers me. But I admit that this movie does all of it better without having to show his house, without having to
Oh
show
yeah.
his girlfriend. It's done better in this one than all of them. And I know this is a big deal, but this is easily the best Mission Impossible movie. It's the best Mission Impossible anything. It's just this movie is better than any of the other movies. This movie is better than the TV series, and I love the TV series. This single, 2-hour movie is better than anything else in the Mission Impossible franchise that ever came before or after. I think this movie is damn near perfect, and it's the best Mission Impossible anything.
Is there a butt?
Flat out. Huh?
Is there a butt coming?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought you were about
This
to pull
movie,
the.
this, yeah, no, but it's incredible and it's the best one. And it's like if, in some multiverse where there is nothing Mission Impossible that ever existed except for this one movie, it would be worth it because this is seriously the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Like,
For
it's the best.
for the longest time, it was my number one because I rank things on Letterboxd. And recently,
Was,
yeah,
was.
I recently. Here's the thing: Fallout gets awfully close, and then for a while there, I'm like, Fallout or one, Fallout or one,
What?
and then recently I'm like, no, I think Fallout then one. I don't know. I'll probably change it again, but right now I have Fallout above one. But for the longest time, one was always one, and it probably
Okay.
won't go back. But
Okay. I'm
I
gonna
am
go
shocked at
into,
how fucking good Fallout is. It has
I
no.
mean,
It's
okay, here we
great.
go. All right, Fallout. I've seen all of these things. I've seen all of them multiple times, but the names start to get okay. Oh, that one is really good. That's the one with the helicopter at the end, huh?
The fucking helicopter at the end.
Still not better than the first one, but I do
It's got the
love that
Halo
one.
jump.
It's
It's
great.
it's got Superman fucking loading his guns.
You know what's funny
That
is
bathroom fight and throwing that fool through the fucking mirror and that fight is insane.
so that's a good point. So somebody, I'm not a Henry Cavill Superman fan. However, him as a villain,
Oh my
especially
god,
in Mission, he's so good. I think
so
he should
good.
own. I think he should only play
I
villains
agree.
because
That
I
was
think that
like
he.
that was
Mhm.
like the moment where I was like, oh, like I see you, like I get you. I didn't.
Oh, I was like this. And he was kicking the shit out of Tom, and I was so
So
upset.
good.
I was like, Tom, get up! But once again, that's a movie where they have to like be throwing each other in the bathroom stalls as opposed to, hiding and jumping out of you know, um, air ducts and stuff. But that's I think that's probably the best side of the other side of Mission Impossible, like the action side. But I always prefer espionage classic Casino Royale,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
TV show Mission Impossible, which is why I think the first one is the best one. But I
Yeah,
love
I mean,
Fallout.
oh yeah,
What was all of them are pretty good except for
Rogue Nation is
the
also damn good.
Rogue Nation is great. Wow, there's so many Mission Impossible movies.
There have been seven, and the eighth will supposedly be the final one.
Well, that's what
I
they're
say
saying. We'll
supposedly,
see.
but then there's a lot of movies that were supposed to be the final one until they make $1 billion,
Well,
and then they make more.
Well,
So
Mission Impossible, the one Ghost Protocol was supposed to be the last one for Tom, and then
at
they
the
did
time,
another one. Yeah, and Ghost Protocol, don't sleep on Ghost
I
Protocol.
love Ghost Protocol.
I think Ghost Protocol is actually my second favorite one. Oh, so good,
I'm,
Ghost
I'm gonna, I'm
Protocol.
gonna, I'm gonna. I'll tell you my whole thing now. Loved one. Think it's a fucking masterpiece. If I'm being
Hmm.
frank, masterpiece. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say that. Two can fucking suck a fuck. I thought three was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's
It's
pretty
pretty good.
good. But four, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? We're the fourth film in this franchise. Why is it this good at number four? What the fuck
Yeah,
just happened? Not
yeah,
as good as one,
you're
but like, what the fuck just happened? It
bro.
beat the shit out of three. Like, it just fucking beat
You're
it down.
at three was good.
And
Like
we
I saw
like
three, and I
three.
went, I'll go see another one of those.
Here's what
Another one of
happened.
those.
I'm like, we're four in. Maybe we should quit where we're ahead. And they're like, we're gonna do a five. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, that's
Somehow,
what I said. I was great.
five
Rogue
was
Nation,
better
yeah.
than four. I know. I think Rogue Nation's fucking great. I just
I think
rewatched it a few months ago.
Rogue Nation is
It's fucking
fantastic.
great.
But I think
So five,
Ghost Protocol.
they're both great, but I like five more than four. So here's my thing. I'm like, wow, I don't know how you made five better than four, but that was great. You should quit while you're ahead. And then they're
Mhm.
like, we're gonna do a sixth one. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know.
Hmm.
Can you really carry this on for a sixth movie? Can you really carry this shit? And somehow, six is better than five. And I'm
I
like, how
love
the
six.
fuck
Yeah.
is the sixth movie in the franchise almost as good as one? And right now, I think slightly better. Like, what the fuck happened? Is yeah, it going into Dead Reckoning. I'm like, are you gonna like somehow six is better than five, five is better than four, and four is better than three? You're not gonna keep this going, are you? And they're like, no, we're not. Like it's good,
No.
but it's good, but we're not gonna top six. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this this thing can't keep going. It's
Yeah.
got to
I think.
topple at some point, and
I
it
think
did.
that's. I think
And I
that's
like
what
seven.
the.
We'll get to it.
Wait. So what's the name? Yeah.
Dead
Dead
Reckoning.
Reckoning.
I like it, but you not so much. But
It's too
you
much.
know,
It's too repetitive of the previous sequels. It's stuff we've already
I get
seen.
you, and we can get
We're
into
gonna,
specifics later.
yeah,
But
we'll
I
get into
just think as a
specifics.
franchise, I just think it's very interesting that like,
Hmm.
fuck, did it find its stride at four, and then to me just go boop 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 boop.
Well, yeah, it's I don't know if there's any other movie series that are that consistent. I mean, even the Bond
Yeah,
movies that I've always loved, I go back and I watch them. I don't like Bond as much as I thought I did because most of the Bond movies I'm like, but then there's others ones that are just I think are incredible. And I think this series, after the two debacle was out of the way, it's just consistently great. And then eventually you can't every album can't be Thriller, bro. You know?
yeah.
It's like they can't all be winners. And I think that it still was a hit. It wasn't didn't gross $1 billion, but it was a hit, modest hit comparatively to its budget. And then the next one they're bringing everybody back. So I hope they bring more old people back. I think if they do the last one as the greatest hits with all the greatest hits characters and situations, plus make it, I think hopefully we get there and it's great. But I mean, I still think the first one's the best one.
First one's the best one, and one of the little things that I think about when I watch it because it's not the best espionage movie ever. But I was talking to my buddy Eddie a few years ago about how I like specifically espionage movies, not just action. Because like I miss there used to be adventure movies. And they don't really
Right,
make just adventure anymore. It's like action adventure. And there's got to be lots of
right.
action. And I'm like, no, we used to just go to the jungle and go on a thrilling adventure, you
Hmm.
know? And so many spy movies are like action spy movies, but like what happened to just good old fashioned espionage?
Hmm.
And this movie, while it isn't the best espionage movie ever, if anyone was to ask me like, well, I've never seen like what's a good espionage movie if it's my first one, maybe this
Yeah,
because it hits. It's got teamwork, it's got betrayal, it's got intrigue, it's got spy tech, it's got
the tech.
international, it's got government agents,
Hmm.
it's got shadowy figures and having to hide identity. Like it kind of does a lot. Maybe it doesn't do it the best, but the movie in itself is kind of a greatest hits example of what this can be without
Yeah,
going because let's say if someone was like, well, what should I see? I'm like, well, I guess like maybe either the original Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy or the new one, but bro, it's pretty fucking slow. If you want something a little more exciting, like this was
well, I
like a
think,
this is a
yeah,
good Fisher Price my first spy flick.
I
Because
think when it
Bond movies
comes,
are Bond movies.
yeah,
They're not totally pure espionage
you're
anymore.
not seeing, I mean, Casino Royale was probably the closest to one, but
But even then,
yeah.
they put the character so front and center. And this, like Ethan Hunt, isn't much of a character. The whole movie is
Mhm.
just spy shit and intrigue,
Yeah.
without being like, oh, I've got a chip on my shoulder because I was poor and now I have to wear a tuxedo and like
Yeah.
there isn't as much baggage with this.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I'm like
Yeah,
Ben Affleck.
I agree. Yeah,
I agree.
and also there's something about the whole both the Eastern European first third and then like the British on London on our way to Paris last third. It's mostly set in Europe, and I first of all, I just like my spy shit in foreign countries, so
Absolutely.
it gives you the travel. Um, but there's still something for it. It's weird to call it modern. Came out in '96, but for modern espionage,
Right.
we're using the tools of the time. But and this is what like plays for me so good once you've already seen it, right? Is like the first time you see it, and he's talking to Jim Phelps, and he's pretending he's talking about Kittredge, but he's thinking about Phelps doing it,
That's
and
the scene,
and
man.
he's thinking about the car blowing up, and he's thinking about what's her nuts doing it, and he's thinks about
She couldn't do
Chavoy doing it,
that.
at the time, at least on first viewing, you're like, right, because I'm with you. I don't know if it's her. I don't want it to be her. I don't know if it's her.
Exactly.
And it's not till we get to the train car at the end where you're like, fuck, it's her. But it's a
Yeah, it's
reveal. Every other
yeah.
time after, though, we know it's her. So when he leaves the London safe house to go to the train station to call Kittredge for
Mhm.
just under 30 seconds.
That's right.
First of all, I love that these are the little things I think about. I'm like, this is like an old spy moment, but it's in a modern, like, it feels like a modern train station. But you would still go to the train station in your fedora and like call the number and do the thing. So I'm loving all that. But when he leaves the safe house, they show her watching him leave. On first viewing, she's just watching him leave. But now you're like, oh, you crooked bitch,
Yep.
you're watching because you're probably ready. You're probably telling John Voight right now where he's going. Like
Yeah,
you
and then when he pops up, you're like, yeah,
what watch because especially I remember the first time I saw this, I found it so coincidental that Jean Reno is
mhm.
on their team, is also secretly working for John Voight. Oh, and he was the one who stabbed Kristen Scott Thomas in the beginning. And then I realized, well, no, if he
He
is
set it
working
all
for the
up.
mole, and
He set
then
it all up.
she's the one who, after the mission kind of goes a little sideways, goes, sorry, he was my fault. I picked him from
Sorry,
the
he was
list. I'm
my
like,
call.
you picked him because you're married to Phelps and you're in on it. Like it all fits.
Yeah.
The writing is on the wall, kind of, but your focus is over here. But watch it a second or third time. Just that one line. Sorry, he was my call. I'm like, oh, I should have known it was you from
Yeah.
that line.
But it's funny too because I remember just being like, "Oh, I don't want to be her. That sucks." And I didn't even like particularly like her, but I'm like, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like because I remember when it happened, I was like, Phelps isn't dead. I go, he
Oh,
isn't dead. He's gonna show up. And then as soon as Tom turned around and he was there, in the Drake Hotel Chicago thing, I was like, oh my God, are they gonna make him the
yeah.
bad guy? I see the bad guy, and I go, is his wife in on it? She's gotta be. And then, and then I hated Krieger and the whole time because it's like he just keeps fucking with Tom. And once we got to the end and everything came together, I was like, I knew it, and then I was mad but knew it that she was involved. And yeah, like when it first shows his thought, you see her go boom and she presses the button. I
Oh,
go,
I love
I
it.
bet that's what happened. And then when he goes, nah, she wouldn't do that. And I was like, yeah, no, 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 she's probably a good guy. But it's
And
funny because like the movie genuinely makes you feel the way it wants you to feel
yeah.
about all the characters. It's really
And
good.
there are other movies where I feel like I don't appreciate being manipulated emotionally, but in this
Hmm.
movie, you need to be.
Yeah.
And again, it's all very blatant visual language shit. Like that the way first of all, they do a lot of like God, they used to do so much back in the day, but those split dioptics where you've got something very focused in the foreground and very
Hmm.
focused in the background. And we're doing that
Hmm.
during the
A split
briefing.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones is when it's fucking Kittredge talking to that other guy about the
Oh yeah,
diarrhea
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And he's just like, I want him manning a fucking booth in Alaska by the end of the day. And he's just in the background, so unassuming. But I love that we are
So
privy
sad.
to this guy's fucking fate. And there's so
Dude,
much.
the pen, for some reason, the pen where she shoots the liquid into the coffee, I thought was the coolest fucking thing in
Oh, me
like
too.
1996. I remember thinking like, oh my God, she has a pen full of, whatever that is.
I'm gonna
And
make you
she just
puke
goes,
juice. Yeah.
it's just boom. Yeah. And, I was I thought that was so cool. I don't know why, but I was so impressed with that.
Same.
I wanted to wear glasses after this movie. Like I literally wanted to get the glasses with the clear glass, and I did eventually because I wanted that. I mean, this haircut I've had, and whenever I cut my hair short, which is most of the time now because I'm old, but this is the Tom Cruise, Top Gun, Ethan Hunt haircut. Always. That's what I have, and it's because of this movie. The first time I cut my hair off real short like this was in 1996, and it was because I saw this damn
Oh,
movie.
dang. Yeah, I love that you're talking the also the shot with the pen talking about Hitchcock. I love that's basically when Norman goes into his mom's bedroom and the camera goes up,
Hmm.
points down over the hallway,
And she's,
and
yeah, it's such a good
we're
shot.
we're in this little cafeteria, and then we go up and we go down, and we point down, and yep,
It's so good. It's so well done. As you know what's going on
oh yeah,
without even knowing what's going on. As soon as and you're like, oh shit, like it's what's happening. And then he goes and he throws up and everything, but you knew it's so well done. You
Yeah,
know, everything just
and
kind of
and
where we're
again,
going.
like I, this is such a weird movie to be talking about because I don't think of this movie as a comedy, but it does have its laughs.
Oh, it
Um,
does.
but I'm always impressed by what I consider comedy editing, where a joke on a wide shot or a close up plays differently, and if you're staying on that shot for 1 second too long or you cut away too early, the beats don't always land. And it's that shot where we cut back to him leaving the bathroom, going back to the office door, and turning
Oh my
right the
God,
fuck
that is
back
so
around.
funny. That is so funny. Like and you see him go and he runs back in. It's like, and you feel bad for him, but it's also really kind of funny. So
Yeah.
it's yeah,
And
it's
the
well
thing is, I
done.
remember seeing that in theater, and that it's just a shot of him going, runs right back, killed.
Well, also it's funny because like uh Krieger is kind of a he's kind of there for like silly. So when he first shows up, they
Hmm.
make him kind of silly, so you feel like he's part of the gang. Like even the way he rubs his nose, absolute
Hmm.
silence. He sneezes and all this stuff. You don't start to think he's scary until he kills the rat that quick. You- And then it's just the body. And you're like, oh, you just see
Yeah.
him drop the rope, then it comes back and that thing is mangled. Like
It's not
it's
until they go back to the safe house in London. That's where I'm like, oh,
tick,
this
tick,
hothead little
tick. Yeah.
prick.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
magic tricks, and that was great too. Oh
Yeah,
my
the
God,
mouse
Tom
thing. I
Cruise.
remember when I was younger, I used to think he's killing the mouse because eek, a mouse.
That's what I thought. Yeah, yeah, but he's
And now when I get older, I just think, no, fuck, if it keeps going, it's going to go into that open vent and it's going to drop right fucking down on that floor and ruin
mhm.
everything. I have to kill him.
Right.
I have to
And
kill
see,
this
it's funny
fucking
because
rat.
when I first saw it, I thought he was kind of comedic because even the way he played, like
Oh, yeah.
seriously, and he's just his motions and how he talks and is he serious? You think you could do this? We are doing this, like whatever. Like he was kind of
The
comedic. Yeah, oh, so good.
music.
See, he was kind of comedic until he wasn't. And when he's
Yes.
not funny, he's scary. Like, dude, the whole thing, like, try to pull a magic trick with my money and I'll slit your throat. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then the knife. When he realizes the knife that he pulled out is the same as the one. I remember
Yeah.
in the movie, because the way they shot it too, it's like if you're not looking for clues, you're not going to get it. But as soon as he goes boom, and I went like this, and in my head, I remember go, they all use the same knife or something? Like, is that like a standard knife? And then when it goes back and it shows it, and he noticed it, zero body count. I'm like, that's the knife. That's the knife that killed what's her name. Yeah, really
Yeah.
well done.
You know what's really
Once
well done
again,
too? It's a non-speaking sequence, but when he's piloting the helicopter, he's flying it with menace. Like he's a
oh,
prick.
dude, next to Tom's face, yeah, it's so
Hmm.
good.
So
Ethan
good.
Hunt,
And
yeah.
also, I mean, we talked about Jean Reno, but like, it's funny what for this movie, Ving Rhames is kind of he's like the comedic relief, but in the grand scheme of things, he's not hilarious. But for
Mhm.
a movie that's so moody with its
Intense.
spy shit, like I remember, when she puts the tracker on the dude's fucking coat and he just goes, "Hi there,"
Yeah.
kills. Like he's the
Oh,
funny
everybody in the
hacker
theater was,
guy.
yeah, everybody in the theater was laughing.
But
Yeah,
he
I
only has
remember.
like two major laughs in the whole movie. But when I walk away from this movie, I go, "Oh, he's the funny one."
He's the
He's
funny
funny
guy.
guy
Yeah.
twice. It's
Yeah.
that, and when he's talking about how he fucking hacked NATO. He's like, I had nothing to do
Oh
with
yeah,
that.
but with that
With
one
that,
exceptional, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's uh, the only thing I have to say left that is that there's these little tiny things that we kind of skipped over that I want to go back to. Like we were talking about the masks.
Mhm.
One of the things. Stop me if you ever feel this way or if you remember this. There was a time in the 90s when CGI was starting, and not even just CGI, but just like being more creative with the way you're compositing multiple things.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things is like, so back then, a movie would have like 13 CGI shots, and now they have like
Right.
2,000.
Yeah.
But to me, there was a real like run before you can walk sort of mentality back then. And to me, it's not just the fact that they rip off the Jim Phelps mask by starting with practical CGI and practical. They go the added step by having him be lit by lines of light and shadow,
Hmm.
which sells you on the realism, but also makes your job a lot fucking harder.
Hmm.
But they nail it which is what makes the effect so good. They could have just had him in a brightly lit thing, and we would have to work, or a darkly lit thing. But they decided to run before we can walk. You know what'll sell it? Different lighting tones. But now we have to rise to the occasion. And I remember thinking about that all the time. I remember thinking about like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids when they were on the Bumblebee. They could have just had like a wide shot of them on the bee, but instead the bee pushes forward and back into the camera. And I'm like, this is a lot of work. There's a lot of movies where they only had like 20 shots, but they were like the best 20 shots you ever saw.
Well, I think
and this movie to me is no slouch when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think the CGI in this also benefits from them shooting it as if we're gonna shoot this practically two different ways, and we're gonna cut it together and we're gonna try to make it work. CG is what melds it together. It's not what makes it. They didn't just go, fuck it, we'll do it in CGI. They went, we're gonna shoot it this way, which is expensive and hard. We're gonna shoot it this way, which is expensive and hard. Then we're gonna do this thing in the middle that's expensive and hard and typically doesn't look good, and we're going to make it seamless. And it's like you said, the 12 or 13 shots or whatever. I mean, I know that him being launched off the helicopter is an optical, and that's it's ridiculous. It's one of the greatest. It's such a great shot. The explosion
and that was in the trailer, and that was in every commercial. Like you went to that movie probably because of that shot.
Well, and what's funny about that is that didn't, for some, knowing that was something like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Some explosion when he gets launched forward.
I didn't even think about it the whole movie.
No.
And then it happened. No. Went, oh yeah, there's the.
And I was like, that does. It almost was like that wasn't the punchline. That was the joke, and then the punchline would be whatever's going on. And it turns out that in it, knowing the punchline first, totally was fine. Because once you get there, you're like, oh, that's the explosion.
Yeah, and it's great. And again,
really well done.
There's versions. First of all, the whole. You know how they would shoot that scene now on the bullet train, but back then, like the environment,
the wind is so real and his face is rippling.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if they shot that movie now, Tom Cruise would be on a bullet train,
a real train. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying, like the environments. Like I'm still not sure. I don't think we were doing full CG environments in 1996, but the compositing between all these different angles they're getting and simulating the speed and getting the wind on his face and going into the tunnel, it's all really, really impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's really well done. I think they just did a really good job of it. You can tell, like the helicopter and stuff, because none of that's real. I mean so everything with the helicopter going, they made the helicopter look real when it goes into the tunnel. They made you believe that he was dipping the helicopter, and they didn't forget their own rules. When he tips the back, like and he's like, it's really good.
You know what's one of my favorite little moments that like it never registered to me when I was younger, but I fucking love it now, is when they're on the train right before we get into the tunnel. Because there's a cable that he just wants to hook to himself.
Oh, right.
They get into a fight, and Ethan hooks onto the train, rolls back, and goes, "Oh!"
That's so good.
I fucking love it.
That's and that's something that like I think they identified in this as well, and they forgot about it for a while. But like Ghost Protocol, they gave Ethan kind of his personality back.
Oh yeah,
because in the first movie. He's deadly serious. I mean, he's as serious as cancer. You know what I'm saying? Like he's serious, but there's moments where when he wins, he's really happy, and or he's genuinely upset. Like Kittredge, you've never seen me. In Ghost Protocol, when he goes, "You're out of rope," and he goes, "No shit." To me, that is so that character. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and also
that's another humor part.
That's true. There's a benefit to this movie in specifically this one in that this is the youngest we ever see Ethan, because he's also this is the only one where he's maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's got a little bravado in 5, but he's so like I almost dislike how cocky he is with Max.
Oh,
I know that's
dick,
but that's kind of how he has to play it, not to charm her in a genuine way, but to charm her. I don't know, like to break through. He's got to play it this way.
I feel like
but I'm just saying,
the magic trick scene is like that.
He's got this shit-eating grin, and if I was talking to that guy like in a bar, I would fucking hate him and want to leave the conversation.
Yeah, straight up.
But for the scene, I get why he's playing it that way. But that's something that like 48-year-old Ethan would be really obnoxious doing, but this aged Ethan, the same way
Yeah.
they're all sitting around Phelps getting briefed and making little jokes and shit, and he and Amelia were being a little cocky. We don't really get that Ethan in any of the other movies.
No, but yeah, and that's kind of like the in Ghost Protocol when he finally broke and
Yeah,
just went like, "Duh, I know, I'm just putting this together." It feels like that.
yeah. I will never forget seeing this in theaters for the first. I saw it twice in theaters, but the first time. Do you remember when movies used to do this? It used to happen a lot in the '90s and the '80s, where let's say I remember. I forget which one came out first, Father of the Bride or Beauty and the Beast, but it was a double feature where
Mm.
Father of the Bride comes out next week, but if you see Beauty and the Beast on Saturday, we also include Father of the Bride early preview, and it would show you like in the newspaper like for this
Oh wow, that's
showing at
cool.
this time. So I remember I forget what the movie was, but I saw Mission Impossible a week early,
Oh, that's cool. I hate you.
and and I forget what it was playing with, but we went and saw Mission Impossible with fucking Congo or whatever the fuck. And when Jean Reno drops the rope and Ethan fucking falls and he fucking splays out, everyone in the fucking theater was just
Yeah, yeah.
like you could literally probably hear a fucking pin drop. It was insane. The
Yeah.
audience was so on board. And what made me sad was about a month later, we went and saw Mission Impossible, like 3 weeks after it came out or something. And we went in the afternoon. And audience's vibes must be so different because that was like a Saturday night and this was like a Thursday afternoon. But when he drops and lands and splays out, everybody laughed. And he's just laying there like trying to like, and everyone just thought it was
Oh yeah.
funny, like his little fucking arm wiggle and him trying to bend his. And I'm like, this ain't fucking funny. Why are you
Yeah.
all fucking laughing? Like, I get why you're laughing, but this isn't fucking funny.
Yeah.
You all need to grow up. This is scary shit right now. Grow
15-year-old
up.
John Carlos in the theater going, "You damn kids."
Kinda, yeah.
I saw this movie. There's only two movies this has ever happened for, and neither one of them include Batman in the title. I saw Mission Impossible 8 times in the
Whoa.
theaters. I watched it 8 times, and I watched it 8 times in a row. I saw it this day, 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 and so on for 8 days straight.
So you really liked it.
I My mind was blown. I still feel it's incredible. It's easily one of the best movies I've ever seen. And experience wise, there was no equal to it at the time for me. And that was at the time of great movies, especially pop culture, popcorn
Oh yeah,
extravaganzas. And I think that this was so good and also so right for the time that pop culture and, you know, 15 and 16-year-old boys who were looking for, 1960s, but badass modern,
dude,
spy thriller dramas. It was exactly right.
dude. I mean, you're touching on something, which is that, and people. I think there's a whole generation of people who don't even know this was a thing, and they just see this movie as a franchise. When this movie came out, it wasn't just like, oh, let's start a franchise. It was a trend that it was following.
Hmm.
In the '90s, they were making movies out of every
TV
fucking
shows.
'60s TV show.
Hmm. Brady Bunch, yeah,
Brady Bunch, and first of all, and a lot of them were Paramount. Mission Impossible,
yeah.
Brady Bunch,
It's because they own
Addams
the TV
Family.
rights,
I
yeah.
think a year later, The Saint.
Hmm.
Like these are all Paramount titles. If they weren't, trying to think, The Fugitive was
The Fugitive
Warner Brothers,
was Warner Brothers, but I mean that
and
was
then
the
about a
trend.
year
I
or
mean,
two later, yeah, 2 years later, Warner Brothers does The Avengers, and New
oh,
Line does
so
Lost in
bad. Oh,
Space.
I hated the
Lost in
Avengers.
Space sucked too.
There's some positive in that movie, but not much.
Beverly Hillbillies was Fox,
Oh,
but this is what they were doing then though.
yeah, yeah.
All '90s,
I
all
hated that.
'60s TV shows, and that's what to me that's the other thing that makes this shocking is so many of those other ones were like, well, we're just going to take the Clampets and we're going to do the Clampets. We're going to
Hmm.
they didn't say, oh, well, we're going to do the Leonard Nimoy character and this character. Like Tom Cruise went
No.
in and said, like, no, we're going to kind of do it, but I'm making this completely my own in a way that if they said, oh, we're going
Mhm.
to do the Addams Family. Here's a bunch of fucking new Adamses.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the thing I
Yeah.
didn't appreciate in the '90s, that it went and did its own thing.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
this it was, and once again, franchises and stuff like that did not work the way it does now at all.
Correct. Well,
And
this
there
didn't
was
even
no,
get a sequel until 2000,
right.
and
And there
then it
was
was
no,
even longer, I think,
oh,
until the third one.
because the second was terrible. Synergy did not exist among IP.
Hmm.
So the idea that Tom went in and said, we're doing a sequel to the series you like. I'm going to write my own. I'm going to put together my team and everything. I'm going to do my own suspense thriller, spy movie, and it's going to be Mission Impossible, and we're going to um, make it a continuation. The show happened. This doesn't change the show. This is what
Hmm.
happens 30 years later. And the fact that it worked so well and was such a good movie and they put so much work into it, um, is the only way there's seven of these damn movies.
Hmm.
Because the second movie was just a huge. That's when Tom was trying to follow a movie trend and was like, oh, each one of these movies is going to be, kind of like the Bond movies. Each one of these movies is going to be representative of what movies are like at the time. But the problem is, I think you realize that long term, you start having bad movies because there are shitty moments in pop culture movie history. And the John Woo movie was so not a Mission Impossible movie that
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that, but my biggest gripe with it is that it's a fine action movie. It's not a
mm,
good Mission Impossible movie.
mm-mm. No, it's watchable. It's not bad. It's pretty good, but
Yeah.
it's not for me. It's to me, it's so bro. Yeah, bro, I'm gonna climb a rock. It was just, oh yeah, I'm
Uh,
gonna do a flip on a motorcycle. But we'll talk about that.
yeah,
But
I
there
mean,
are
it
lots
opens with
of.
Limp Bizkit, like, which
Mm,
I will say, there's one little thing about this as a franchise that I do miss, because the second movie had Limp Bizkit, which we'll roll
Soggy
our eyes,
muffin.
but it's my favorite Limp Bizkit track. And it's because the melody
Hmm.
is written by fucking Lalo Schifrin and not them.
No,
But
it's not.
like,
It's not a bad song. Yeah.
it's a fucking I listen to it a lot. It really gets me hyped when I'm driving on the freeway. But then the third movie, like basically
Metallica.
we had Bono on the
Oh, what
Edge.
was the second one Metallica or the third one Metallica? The second one
No,
was
no. Second one featured two songs: a Limp Bizkit
okay.
song, which was the Mission Possible melody, and then
Right.
a Metallica song that was just
I
like a new
disappear.
Metallica
Yeah.
song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the third one had Kanye West doing something for the end credits, but like it wasn't the Mission Possible theme. And what I
Yeah.
wish was, after he had Bono on the Edge and Limp Bizkit, I was looking forward to every movie,
Hmm.
kind of like the Bond songs, getting,
Hmm.
granted those are new songs, but like, who's the artist that's going to
And
do
how they
Mission
gonna?
Impossible theme this time?
That's
And
what I
I'm
wanted them to
really
do
sad
too.
they never did that, because I didn't buy the soundtrack, but I was so hyped I got the CD single
I
that had
have the
Bono,
single for "I Disappear" by
and then
Metallica.
oh
Yeah.
wow,
Oh, I liked
yeah,
it. I liked the
because
video too.
this, I think it either had two or four different, like, when they would just do the remix, the 7-inch
Hmm.
remix, and it was just like,
Yeah.
but dude, I was so hyped on the fucking,
I was so excited about that movie.
yeah, and other movies followed suit, like The Saint. I think
Oh, I
Orbital
like The
did the
Saint.
Saint theme.
Hmm.
Amazing.
That movie's
Uh,
dope. I
yeah,
like The Saint, man.
I know you do. I know you do.
You don't like The Saint?
It's all right.
Or Val Kilmer? I love The Saint. I don't love it as much as Mission Impossible at all. Not even close.
No, not at all. But
It's like if Mission Impossible is an A plus, this is like a C minus, but I still liked it.
before we go, I just need to point out that even at age 44, you could still
Hmm.
catch things that maybe you probably caught this. I never did, but I watched it now.
You're 44? Oh my God. You're getting old,
Yeah,
dude.
sucks. Well, this young whippersnapper right here.
I'm much younger than John
Yeah,
Carlos,
he's
so
older than me. No, I never noticed until fucking this viewing. Maybe it's because we still smoked on planes when I was a kid. But when Jim
oh.
Phelps's tape self-destructs, he lights up a cigarette, and that's when I went, "Oh, you're masking the smoke from the cassette by actually smoke." And if anyone walked, that's good shit.
It's
That's good spy
fantastic.
shit. And he does it so casually
Yeah,
for
for sure. Oh
fucking
yeah.
for what, I don't know. Has it been 20, almost 30 years, whatever? Like, I just go, "Oh yeah, he's lighting a cigarette." For some reason today, I was keyed, or yesterday, I was really keyed in. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, no, I actually I paid a lot of attention to the intro because his tech was interesting in that. The earphones and the tape,
Oh yeah.
considering what modern
Oh
and
my
I
god.
remember I remember that movie came out. I go, ooh, that's a cool tape. Ooh, those are cool earphones. Oh, it's in the handle. That's so cool. Nowadays, it's like we
Yeah,
wouldn't even think about that.
yeah. Like they used to have sometimes just a screen that you would all watch a movie. But I'm like,
Hmm.
wait. In first class, they give you pick your own movie.
That's so
That's
cool.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, or like the CD disc thing that they
Oh, the
download the
case
doc list
was first
on.
of all, it's no big deal. It's just a clear case, but like every disc was like black back then.
Yeah, it was so
Well, that
cool
was
looking.
clear. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
got a
that was
different little
dope.
casing. But okay, I know I said before we go, but like you mentioned the tech. How adorable is it that he's like Max Job 13, like the Bible? Well, let me go to what Usernet and just search for every Job web group.
I told my
At one point when he's searching for Max, he types in max.com
I
because
know.
that's how like foreign the internet was to us.
Well, it's funny because I was telling my wife when we were watching it, I said this was before we knew how the internet worked. So
And
that's
that's
how the
what
internet
email looked like.
works.
It actually made a little letter.
And I went, "Phew." Yeah, no, it was funny because there's a lot of movies. I don't know if you watch Pitch Meeting, the Pitch
Mhm.
Meeting shorts. They're hilarious, and it's just so funny because so the movie can happen, and it kind of has that vibe where you're like, I remember even back then going, oh my God, so the internet, you could find anybody. And then now I'm like, bro, even though, just so you know, in my job that I do, I have to look up things like he does in that. And 9 times out of 10, I find people. I don't just type in max.com or something, but a lot of the things he does in that and how he just kind of like randomly just looks for chat groups and stuff, totally doing research on clearing items or elements for things. Um it's literally like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, just typing in whatever you can in quotes without a quote with with .com .org and to
Yeah.
find stuff.
And
And so it's remarkably kind of silly when you watch how they have how it is. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought the first time the mail went through, I was like, oh, that's what the interface for that site looks. No, every time he emails someone, the movie wants you to think that's how emails
Yeah.
go.
That's how email works. But it's not as silly as like a Superman 3 type of thing, where it's like video games to computers can make
Yeah.
people or
Oh my
whatever,
God. Yeah.
But
But
it's definitely in the my science project or
yeah, it's
those
not
type
quite
of things.
Superman 3, but it is still bullshit.
Yes, but it's not as silly, but it's
But you know
bullshit.
what? One little thing that kills me.
That's another one where I'm like, come on, you
Now
could have done that,
here's what kills
Jesper.
me. He types out the message, and I go, dude, just copy and paste it. But instead, he's so sleepy because he keeps typing out the email each time and
That's
rubbing
not
his
how the
eyes.
internet,
And I'm
John, you
like,
don't understand the internet in
no,
1996. That's not how the internet
keyboards
works.
in 1996 still had fucking Control C. Like, you
See,
could still copy a
see,
highlighted text.
I see, John, that's not what Al Gore was
But
talking about. And when 99 turns to 2000, everything's going to explode. That's just
but
because you don't understand the internet in
I
the
actually
90s.
think I do understand why that happened though. Because there's always like a lag from one generation to the next who's still creating media for the next generation. I'll
Right.
give you an example. I know somebody who's very upset with Batman versus Superman when Lex
Is
Luthor
it the
is
bad
show
movie?
specifically when Lex Luthor is showing Superman photos of his mom, and
Mhm.
he's like, "It's 2014 or whatever. Why is he still using Polaroids? Like he would just pull up his phone or a tablet." You could tell this is
Right.
written by someone a generation ago who thinks photos are photos and doesn't
Right.
realize how we view photos now. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Robert Town was like, well, he probably had to sit at the typewriter and type his messages out. Robert Town doesn't know about Control C.
Right.
He doesn't know copy and paste for an email.
Right.
I think
Oh,
that's what it
internet.
was. But I love Tom
It's so
Cruise
silly.
acting so tired as he types away these keystrokes all night long, where he could just be like, Control V, send,
What's
Control
funny
V,
too
send.
about that sequence, like the beginning of that sequence, when he walks in and he picks up the chair, and it's clearly a different day than the
Mm.
last scene where he's like freaking out in the bathroom and he's like washing his hands off. He looks like he just got out of the shower. All of his clothes are clean and everything. So maybe that's what they're implying. But it's funny when he picks up the chair, you can see how short he is. You're like, oh my God, he's a little guy. Like
Oh, I
he
didn't
looks,
notice.
if you watch that shot where he picks up the chair and he has the gun in his pants or whatever, he looks this big. I mean, I was like this. I was like, wow, I'm surprised they used that shot. But they're moving and stuff,
Interesting.
trying to track it to make it look like he's, just what the shot is, and not they're
Yeah.
not trying to like fake anything. But it's just funny because in that one shot, he looks 5'7" or whatever he
I need to
is.
go back and watch it
It's
because
an
I
interesting
remember
shot.
I remember I think it was Entertainment Weekly when Vanilla Sky came out. There's a scene where he gets like arrested
Mhm.
because I've never seen Vanilla Sky.
Oh, it's
Um,
good. Well, I mean,
well, I
if you're
love
into it,
open. I'm a really big remake
you love Open
snob.
Your Eyes, right? Yeah,
Fucking
Open Your
love Open
Eyes.
Your Eyes. So I'm like, I don't ever
Yeah.
want to see that movie.
If you could watch Vanilla Sky as a homage, it's an
Yeah, and I know
American
the
cover.
changes they made to it, the little things they added. But anyway, there's a scene apparently where he gets arrested and he's at the getting his photo taken, and it says
Mhm.
like 6 foot right there. And Entertainment Weekly's like, get the fuck out of here. We know you're short, and I'm like, calm
Yeah,
down, Entertainment Weekly.
why
But
couldn't he
you're
just
not.
do like 5'9" or something, like it be
Yeah,
average? No, I gotta be
yeah,
6 feet tall. Yeah, right.
yeah.
I
Well,
love your shirt, by the way. I just realized what that was. I
oh
love
yeah,
New Nightmare. I
yeah.
love New Nightmare. My buddy Miko is in that movie. I love New Nightmare. I love that movie.
It's fucking great.
It's good. It's good.
It's my
It's a
second
great one.
favorite.
Mine too.
Good
I
talk.
agree. I agree. Great talk. We done now? Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree.
Well,
It's a good one.
yeah,
I think Mission Impossible, just in like thesis and wrap up mode, is um it's just so good from every perspective. The music's great, the acting's great, the script is great, the surprise ending is great, the action is great. It's minimal, but it's great. The suspense is great, the humor is great, the music is great, the cinematography is great, the editing is great, the directing is without equal. I think, like, when I think of Brian De Palma and all of his great movies and all of his bad movies, or whatever, this is the movie I think of always. I always think of Mission Impossible. I know that
oh
that's in the I
fuck.
think people go Brian De Palma, and it's just because I think
Wow.
this movie specifically made such. I'm serious. This haircut is because of two movies, Mission Impossible and Top Gun, and I think this movie made such a profound impression on me, especially at a young age. I seriously saw this movie 8 times in a row for 8 days straight. Like
I,
boom, 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 boom.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir in the sense that, like, as someone who actively didn't like Brian De Palma and
Mhm.
who only liked Carrie and Mission Impossible, I was like, yo, but Mission Impossible though. And I remember people's faces would drop because on the one hand, there's general moviegoers that are like, fuck you, Scarface, The
Yeah,
Untouchables, and I'm like, eh.
The
And then there's
Untouchables. The
but then there's
Untouchables.
other
I agree with
people
that.
that are like Dressed to Kill and
Mhm.
Blowout, and they're like, fuck you,
Mhm.
Mission Impossible,
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. But as I've gotten older, I
It's
think Dressed to Kill is fucking great. Like, I
Yeah,
get
no,
it,
no,
I
no.
get it, I get it. But
Yeah,
Mission Impossible,
it's fucking
because
Mission
it's
Impossible.
him, it's still him bringing all his shit to a big Hollywood spy movie,
Yeah,
but infusing with all of his techniques to convey it to make it more than just a 90s 60s TV show movie.
yeah.
Like
I mean,
it
I,
hits.
I agree. I think this movie, and what's great about the Mission Impossible series is, because you typically you got nowhere to go but down. It's like watching Highlander, right? Like you expect the first
Oh,
one to just be it, because everything afterwards
should have been.
should never have been
Yeah,
made. And even the positives, the tiny bits of positives in different Highlander things, none of them are worth making any sequels, but they kept going. Mission Impossible had a huge diversion in the second one, but outside of that, and it's still a good movie, like you said, it just wasn't a Mission Impossible movie. When you These movies are great because they kept trying to outdo the first movie in good ways and in solid ways, not like we're just gonna make more explosions and make longer action sequences. Instead, they do something different, and we're gonna try to outdo the last stunt, outdo the last villain, outdo the last situation. And I think that's a Tom Cruise thing. Once again, weird person, but when it comes to movies, he knows how to trigger that,
yeah,
for us. He really cares enough about entertaining us that the movies are put together in such a way that they're, for the most part, at the quality of the first one. I don't think they're as good as it, but they're at
yeah.
the quality and the level where they were pushing for it in a good, positive way. You
I
know,
agree.
I, I agree. Like I hate to bring in Michael Jackson like I always do, but there's very few artists who do stuff at such a high level
Mm,
that is great and is popular and sells. And Tom Cruise, much like Michael Jackson, every Michael Jackson album, you go buy the album, it's going to be good. It may not be his
hmm.
greatest, but it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and he might be
And
a little weird, but you know,
he's a little weird, but he is everything is to make you entertained, and I think that Tom Cruise is very similar in that mentality. My
Oh yeah.
therapist asked me who my two heroes were uh, years ago, and she was like, "So who are your favorite? Do you other actors you look up to? You love?" And I said, "Oh yeah, Michael Jackson and Tom Cruise are my favorite, artists, music and movie wise and stuff." And she said, "Yeah, we got to work on that. No wonder your anxiety, stressed and all these different things because you look up to people who are insane about making everybody happy all the time through their artwork and through pleasing people." She said, "You're never going to get anywhere like that." So you have to calm it down. But I mean, it's true. I'm grateful that honestly, like this movie, seriously, you will never hear me talk about another Mission Impossible movie the way I talk about this one, although I love all of them. It's, I think this one is a very special movie in history. I think Tom Cruise fucking slayed. I think Brian De Palma slayed. I don't even like you too. I know that's sacrilegious. I love the soundtrack to this. I love the theme song, and I don't
Welcome to
even
the
like
club.
you.
I'm not. I don't hate you two, but I'm just. They're just not my band. I don't care.
I don't.
I don't care.
There's two things that I love by them: this theme and Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me from
Oh,
Batman Forever. But that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's stuff that's
right.
like, that's all right.
Actually, kind of like Elevation, which they used for
Hmm.
the first Tomb Raider movie.
I did
Always
like
movie
even,
shit.
yeah. But yeah, so I think this is one of those movies, and it was that time. I mean, it's like, you look at movies like The Mask, or you look at Ace Ventura, or movies that were just kind of in the same era that got it right. Here it is. And I think that
Hmm.
Mission Impossible is the best of those.
And
Um,
despite the little internet search stuff, mostly timeless and holds up.
I think if you watch this in 10 years, it's going to be just as great as it was in
Yeah.
96. Like right now, when I watched it, it moved faster than I remembered because I haven't seen it in a while, but
Well,
like,
dude, in this era of bloated runtimes, it's an hour and
mhm.
50 minutes, and that's before credits.
And
I
also,
guarantee you, Final
and all of
Reckoning is
that
going to
is
be 2 hours
packed.
and 40 minutes. You know.
Yeah. This is going to be a mini series if they do it again. It's so well done, but
Yeah,
and
an
in all the
hour
right
50.
ways, all the right ways. Love it.
Yeah, love it.
I agree. A plus across the board.
Thumbs up. Good times. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. And I can't wait to actually watch the second one because I'm really interested because I haven't seen it in a long time.
I haven't seen it in like came out in 2000. Maybe the last time I saw it was 2002,
Yeah, I would say the last time I saw it was probably around 2014, maybe
and I've been
2012.
really hard on it. Like that's
Me
you've seen
too.
it much sooner than I have. 2014. Yeah.
I
So yeah,
remember,
we'll see.
yeah,
We'll
I'm tough
see.
on it. I remember when it came out and how disappointed I was. I was very disappointed. But there's a lot of positive things in there, especially visually, acting wise,
Yeah, no, no.
cinematography.
Well, yeah, well, fucking. Oh, I'm gonna have a real knife right above my eye. Like, yeah, Tom Cruise is still gonna do Tom Cruise. Like, I get it. And there's some cool shit.
Tom Cruise is still gonna do Tom Cruise, bro. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I loved it. I thought it was great. Thank you for having me come and talk about one of
yeah.
my absolute favorite movies. Like, absolute. I don't even know if you know. Like, we've known each other a long time, and I know we
We
talk about this
have.
movie, but this movie is truly special to me. This is like I like this. I like this movie better than any single James Bond movie. I like this movie. This is the greatest spy thriller I have ever seen. It because it takes everything I want and puts it. Dude, when that song comes on, dude, in Ace Ventura, don't tell me when you heard, and you're not even
Mhm.
a Mission Impossible fan, but as soon as that boom, da, boom, da, boom, boom, and he starts doing that, it's the IP is great, the music is great, and then they made this movie that totally, like, I think lived up to all the great parts of what happened previous. I love this movie. So when you were like, "Hey, let's talk Mission Impossible," I was like, "The first one's gonna be real easy for me. I'm just gonna just cry all over it because I think yeah, I will tickle the balls and swallow the gravy." I love this movie. It's so good. I think this movie is a 15 out of 10. I love this movie.
Fucking A.
Absolutely. Fucking Tom Cruise, man. It's all down here from here though. But that.
But well, until next time, we'll do MI2 at some point.